Hi, I'm Jimmy, and you know, one of the greatest things about YouTube is that you can make a video about anything you want. And the only real caveat is that it really should be something that interests you. And if it turns out to interest other people, then that's great too, I guess, but really it's all about you. So that got me thinking, what really interests me? What would I like to use this venue to talk about? And after the recent Twitch marathon, I realized there was one thing I could talk about all day long. So this is my chance to do it. One show at a time. And that gives me a very good feeling.
It's such a good feeling to know you're alive. It's such a happy feeling. You're growing inside, and when you wake up ready to say, I think I'll make a snappy new day. It's such a good feeling, a very good feeling. The feeling you know that we're friends. You always make each day a special day for me.
So for this particular episode, which I guess I'm calling the pilot episode, I wanted to talk about the first week of shows, the first 5 episodes actually, of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Now, normally going forward, I'll probably just be addressing one episode at a time, but week 1 has a very specific theme that I think works best to talk about as a whole, and I'm calling that theme The War on Change. It's a group of episodes that spoke to me in one way when I first started watching them, but as I watch more shows and seasons going forward, I realized there was something else going on there entirely, but we'll get to more of that later. This is the first episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood that aired on NET, which would eventually be known as PBS. Notice the spelling on Mr. Rogers there. The change to the more well-known name and logo wouldn't be for a couple years later when the show went to color. This was the first time Fred Rogers was seen nationwide.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Would you be mine? You like what we've done in here? See? You know, the kitchen's kind of changed around.
Fred begins the show by talking about change. Being that this is the first NET episode, and there's a lot of changes on the set and to the characters. And then we meet Mr. McFeely.
Good day, Mr. Rogers. Speedy delivery.
Played by David Newell, who was originally hired to do public relations for the show until he stepped in front of the camera to play everyone's favorite delivery man. Incidentally, McFeely is actually Fred's middle name, and as you dig deeper into the show, you realize how he liked to personalize everything, as a lot of the names and things that would become a part of the show were things from Fred's life.
But there's the tree.
It looks like the changes that Fred mentioned at the top of the show have also affected Make-Believe, as King Friday is upset because Lady Elaine has moved everything around with her magic powers.
Come over to see if I could help you in some way.
You can find that Fairchild woman and...
Specifically, the king is mad about change, which he thinks is bad.
I'm sure that she is hiding somewhere.
Hiding or not, she shall be caught.
Episode 2 starts as Fred brings in a painting of the neighborhood of Make-Believe and gives it a place in the kitchen. So now we have a good visual on how the neighborhood is laid out now. Fred then talks on the phone to Edgar Cook, the sing-songy chef from Make-Believe, who says that King Friday has established border guards in the neighborhood to keep out change. This is the early days of the show, so there was less of a delineation between reality and make-believe, as Fred can talk to the puppets on the phone and use a telescope to see right into make-believe.
Let's see if it's peaceful or not in there.
Lady Aberlin, played by the wonderful Betty Aberlin, who would later appear in films like Dogma, makes her first appearance here. Again, the loose connection between make-believe, as Lady Aberlin says she's going to the neighborhood.
Because I'm really going to visit Great Uncle Friday.
Oh?
You think I should take a make-believe gun or something?
Whoa, what did she just say? I'm guessing this is probably the only mention of a gun in the entirety of the series, and it's truly a WTF moment. Though it's followed shortly in Make-Believe by talk of Lady Aberlin being given a number, becoming a royal guard, and there's even a mention of building a wall around the neighborhood. This is a thing that's happening on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Great Uncle what? Just because Lady Elaine made a few changes is no reason for you to set up border guards.
There may be other changers, and I refuse to let them come in.
It's at this point that I'm wondering, Is there some kind of topical subtext here?
There's nothing to be frightened about until somebody starts shooting, Henrietta. Sometimes they do in war. Meow, 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 war?
Or in this case, just flat out text.
King Friday.
Wait, what year was this made? Oh.
King against change. Those are called the headlines in the newspaper.
Episode 3 features the first appearance of Mr. Rogers with a chicken on his head. Actually, it features the first appearance of Chef Don Brockett, who, by the way, had a small part as a zombie in Day of the Dead. And was also in House Guest with Sinbad. Oh, sorry. The neighborhood chef makes a special cake for King Friday, but King Friday thinks the cake might be poisoned by change. So he has Edgar try it, and he starts choking. No, that doesn't actually happen.
There are changers about, and utmost care must be taken. One more sniff. Nothing poisonous.
In episode 4, Mr. Rogers single-handedly creates the internet by bringing in a puppy and putting it in a playpen. This is like a meme 40 years too early. Meanwhile, King Friday decrees that everyone needs to clock in and out of the neighborhood every day using a punch clock. Grandpere doesn't know how punching works, and it's awkward. Yeah, Daniel, just put that clock anywhere. Back in the real world, Fred enjoys the company of some neighborhood Oh no, Fred! Yes, this is where that meme comes from, Internet. Just an innocent little moment on the show, nothing controversial. And since it goes without saying, so that's why I have to say it, Fred was never a sniper or a Navy SEAL. That's just more internet BS. And finally, in episode 5, the last episode during the War on Change, Mr. Rogers seems very interested in things that float, as Lady Aberlin almost climbs through a window.
Hi, Betty. How are you?
Oh, fine.
Won't you come in?
Oh, yes,
No.
And brings along a plan to bring peace to the neighborhood of make-believe with balloons. So here's a fun bit where Fred has to do a bad imitation of King Friday on purpose, because of course Fred actually does the voice, so that's kind of cute.
Come over like that.
What is this? What is this? Peace. How good.
You think?
Well, I hope so. Look at this.
But luckily, Lady Aberlin's plan of a peaceful coexistence through ballooning seems to work, and the wall comes down in the neighborhood of make-believe.
Stop all fighting.
Peace has returned.
Stop all fighting.
It worked, Daniel. It was a good idea, Daniel.
Here's the thing that interests me the most about this first week of shows, and this is all conjecture, meaning these are things I have swimming around in my mind as I watch this. I have no proof of any of these things. It's very easy to look at these shows and think there's some form of politics at play here. This was 1968, and the world was in a state of constant change and turmoil. Did some of that seep into this show? Or is that because my diseased 2017 brain has been trained to think that everything is somehow political? Because in 2017, everything is somehow political. Everything! And I can't honestly say that getting political isn't something this show was above. I mean, they would eventually get to a point in the 80s where they were talking about building bombs.
Do you know how to make a bomb?
Oh, never made a bomb. I hope I never have to.
But those aren't shows they want you to see anymore. Maybe we'll touch on those a little bit down the road. But as I said earlier, after watching more episodes and forthcoming seasons of the show, I realize there's more going on here. And it all has to do with who Fred Rogers is. Fred had this innate ability to completely wrap his brain around the kinds of things that really worried children. The emphasis on change in this first week of shows, I think, was just Fred's way to ease us as kids into the different changes on the show itself, and less so a comment on what was going on in the world. Fred shows off the new set and asks the viewers,
How do you feel about new things?
the story point of Lady Elaine changing the neighborhood around with magic is simply a clever way of justifying to the kids why the set looks different. And Fred wants us, as the kids, to get used to that.
The trolley.
I don't think it was ever on purpose, but the show could be very meta at times.
Yes,
They did a week-long series of shows in the late 70s all about remembering. You see, that was the last set of episodes before the show's first long hiatus between 76 and 78. Fred starts off talking about past events and things that have happened on the show, and then goes out to his garage and flings open a cabinet full of VHS tapes of past episodes. What? It's almost like that moment in Spaceballs.
I have an idea. Corporal, get me the video cassette of Spaceballs the movie.
Producers, 12 chairs, blazing sound.
Fred was worried that kids wouldn't understand the concept of reruns. Why is the show suddenly in black and white now? Why do things look different? Why is Mr. Rogers 10 years younger? Fred actually thought enough of children to set these things up for them, because it might be things they were wondering about. And there's multiple instances of this kind of thing throughout the series. It's the same for that first week of shows, hence the emphasis on change. Fred wanted the newer PBS shows to be seamless with the old shows. I have a feeling that was important to him. In his last episode in 2001, he doesn't say it's the last episode. He sings "It's a Good Feeling," just like always. And then he says,
Be back next time. Bye. It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood.
and then next week, he's back again. A seamless, never-ending circle. I want to thank you all very much for joining me for the pilot episode of Neighborhood Watch. I feel like this is the part of the show at the end where I should change my sweater and shoes, but, I'm not going to do that right now. We'll see if that changes going forward. But, of course, as we've learned, change is never a bad thing.
Change is there, too. Boy, a day full of changes.
And it's really nothing to worry about, is it?
No, I've kind of enjoyed the change myself.
We love you. Yes, we do. Yes, we do.